Sunday brunch at my Nashville home. Biscuits hot, coffee brewing, my only son Ethan and his girlfriend Jenna smiling across the table. 4 years together, always talking marriage. I ask the question every mother asks. So, when's the wedding? Jenna looked me dead in the eye and said, calm as anything, "We got married yesterday." I laughed, thought it was a joke. Then Ethan raised his hand. A fresh gold wedding band gleamed under the chandelier. No invitation, no call, no warning. My heart stopped. They thought I'd be happy it was done, but that ring hid a secret so deep it would shatter everything I thought I knew about my own family. What happened next still keeps me up at night. Watch till the end. You won't believe the truth under the bed.
Sunday brunch at my house on Maplewood Lane in suburban Nashville has been a ritual longer than most marriages last. I turned 71 last October, but you wouldn't know it from the way I still get up at 6 to knead biscuit dough by hand and fry bacon until the whole kitchen smells like heaven. The dining room table, solid oak, scratched from 30 years of holiday dinners and crayon masterpieces, gets set with Mama's blue willow china every week. Coffee brews dark and strong in the old percolator I refuse to replace. Orange juice in a glass pitcher, butter in the little cow-shaped dish, a vase of fresh zinnias from the backyard because Ethan always says, "Flowers make everything feel like home, Mom." That particular Sunday in late September felt no different at first. The air outside carried the first cool hint of fall, crisp enough for a light cardigan, but still warm enough that the window stayed open. Leaves on the big red maple in the front yard were just starting to blush at the edges. I had the radio tuned low to WSM, classic country, George Strait singing about love and second chances. I hummed along while I cracked eggs into a bowl, thinking about how Ethan would walk through the door any minute, kiss my cheek, and tease me about using too much butter again. He arrived at 10:30 sharp, same as always. My boy, 38 now, tall like his daddy was, dark hair starting to silver at the temples, quiet smile that still melts me every time. He carried a small bakery box from the little place on West End, cinnamon rolls, the kind with extra icing, because he knows I pretend not to love them. Behind him came Jenna, his girlfriend of 4 years, 35, sharp as a tack, graphic designer with her own freelance business. Dark auburn hair in loose waves, green eyes that always seem to see more than she says, and that laugh, bright, contagious, the kind that makes strangers smile in coffee shops. They looked happy, normal, in love. Ethan leaned down to kiss my cheek. "Morning, Mom. Smells amazing in here." Jenna hugged me next, tight, warm, smelling faintly of vanilla candle and fresh laundry. "Maggie, you're spoiling us again." I waved them off with a tea towel. "Y'all sit, food's hot, coffee's ready." We settled around the table. Ethan on my right, Jenna across from him. I passed the biscuits first. Flaky, golden, still steaming. Bacon next. Scrambled eggs, fluffy with a little cheddar melted in. We talked easy things. Ethan's new project at the engineering firm, Jenna's latest client who wanted a logo that looked vintage but futuristic, my neighbor's dog that kept digging under the fence. Laughter came natural, the kind of Sunday that makes you forget the world outside. Then, because I'm a mother and mothers can't help themselves, I leaned forward with my coffee mug cradled in both hands and asked the question that had been simmering since Christmas. "So," I said, keeping my tone light, teasing, "when's the wedding, you two? I'm not getting any younger, and I'd like to hold a grandbaby before I'm in a rocking chair full-time." Jenna didn't blush or giggle the way she usually did when marriage came up. She set her mug down carefully, slow, deliberate. Her eyes met mine straight on, no flicker, no dodge. "We got married yesterday," she said. Calm, even, like she was telling me the time. I laughed, a short, surprised burst. "Oh, honey, that's a good one. You almost had me." Ethan's mouth curved into a half smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. He lifted his left hand from under the table, slow, almost reluctant, and turned it palm down so the light from the chandelier caught the plain gold band on his ring finger. Simple, no engraving, no diamond, just a thin circle of gold that looked brand new.
My coffee cup froze halfway to my lips. The mug trembled, just a little, and a drop spilled onto the blue willow saucer. Yesterday? I repeated. My voice sounded far away, like it belonged to someone else. Ethan nodded once. Davidson County Courthouse, Saturday afternoon. Just us, no big fuss. I looked at Jenna. She was still watching me, expression soft but guarded, like she was bracing for the storm she knew was coming. I set the mug down, carefully, too carefully. My hands felt numb. "Why didn't you tell me?" The words came out quieter than I meant, almost a whisper. Ethan rubbed the back of his neck, the same nervous gesture he'd had since he was 16, and backed my old Buick into the mailbox. "We wanted it simple, Mom. No pressure, no big production, no expectations." Jenna reached across and touched his arm lightly. "We love you, Maggie. We thought once it was done, you'd be happy for us, that it would feel real without all the buildup." Happy. The word sat between us like a stone dropped in still water. I forced my mouth into something that might pass for a smile. "Of course I'm happy," I said. "My only boy's married. That's wonderful." But my voice cracked on the last word, and I hated it. Ethan looked down at his plate. Jenna's fingers tightened on his sleeve. The biscuits were cooling. The bacon grease was starting to congeal on the platter. George Strait kept singing on the radio, something about love that lasts forever. I stared at the gold band again. It caught the light every time Ethan moved his hand. A small, bright accusation. The room felt smaller suddenly, the air thicker. My chest tightened the way it used to when Ethan was little and running a fever I couldn't break. I pushed my chair back, stood up, walked to the kitchen sink under the pretense of getting more coffee. My back to them, I gripped the edge of the counter until my knuckles went white. They'd gotten married yesterday. Without me. Without a phone call. Without a text. Without even a heads up. My only child, my heart walking around outside my body, had stood in front of a judge with the woman he loved and said vows I wasn't invited to hear. And they thought I'd be happy once it was done. I closed my eyes, took one slow breath, then another. When I turned back around, they were both watching me, Ethan guilty, Jenna cautious. I walked back to the table, sat down. I reached for Ethan's hand, the one with the ring. I turned it over gently, studied the band like it might tell me something the two of them wouldn't. Then I looked up at my son. "Tell me everything," I said softly, "from the beginning." Because something in the way Jenna's smile didn't quite reach her eyes told me this wasn't the whole story. Not even close. The kitchen clock ticked louder than it should have. That old wall clock with the black Roman numerals, same one that hung in my mama's house before she passed, seemed to count every second of silence after Jenna's words settled over the table like smoke. "We got married yesterday." Ethan's gold band caught the morning light streaming through the lace curtains, flashing every time he shifted. My biscuit sat untouched on my plate, butter pooling cold in the middle. I looked from Ethan to Jenna and back again, waiting for the laugh, the gotcha, the moment they'd both crack and say it was an early April Fool's prank pulled a few months late. But Ethan's half smile stayed fixed, guilty, almost pleading, and Jenna's expression didn't waver. That small, polite curve of her lips stayed in place, but it never climbed to her eyes. Those green eyes watched me steady, measuring, like she was waiting to see how deep the cut would go before she offered a bandage. "Yesterday," I said again, slower this time, tasting the word. "As in Saturday, the day before today?" Ethan nodded. "Yeah, around 3 in the afternoon. Judge was nice, quick ceremony. We were out in 20 minutes. 20 minutes. The number landed like a slap. 20 minutes to change everything. My only child married, vows spoken, rings exchanged, while I was probably folding laundry or watering the zinnias, thinking about what I'd make for next Sunday's brunch. I set my hands flat on the tablecloth to stop the tremble. "And you didn't think to call? To text?
to maybe let his mother know before the ink dried on the certificate. Ethan rubbed the back of his neck again, harder this time, fingers digging in like he could rub the guilt away. Mom, we talked about it, a lot. We just wanted it low-key. No big wedding planning stress, no guest list arguments, no worrying about who'd cry or who'd drink too much at the reception. We figured once it was done, it'd be easier. Everyone could celebrate after. Jenna leaned forward slightly, voice soft but firm. We love you, Maggie. This wasn't about leaving you out. It was about us making the choice that felt right for us. No audience, no expectations, just the two of us saying yes. I studied her face. That smile still there, practiced, pretty, professional, the same one she wore when she pitched designs to clients, when she charmed my neighbors at block parties, when she told me how much she loved Ethan. But today it looked thinner, like a mask starting to crack at the edges. Easier for who? I asked quietly. Neither answered right away.
Ethan reached for my hand. His fingers were warm. Mine felt like ice. I know it hurts, Mom. I'm sorry, I really am. But we're happy. That's what matters, right? Happy. There it was again. That word they kept tossing like it could fix the hole they just punched through my chest. I pulled my hand back gently. Not angry, not yet. Just needing space. Of course your happiness matters. You're my son. I've spent 38 years wanting nothing more than for you to be happy. But happiness isn't a secret courthouse run on a random Saturday. Happiness is letting the people who love you stand beside you when you make the biggest promise of your life. Jenna's smile faltered, just a flicker, but she caught it quick. We didn't want to make it about anyone else, not even in a good way. We didn't want pressure on you to host or buy a dress or worry about flowers. We wanted it pure. Pure. The word stung worse than happy. I looked at Ethan, really looked, my boy who used to bring me dandelions from the yard, who cried when his first goldfish died, who called me every Thursday night even when life got busy. The man across from me now wore a wedding ring I hadn't seen placed on his finger, and the woman beside him, the one I'd welcomed into my home, my family, my heart, had helped him hide it. I forced another breath. So, no pictures? No witnesses? Just you two and some judge who probably does this 10 times a day? Ethan pulled out his phone. We took one, on the courthouse steps. He turned the screen toward me. A selfie. Ethan in a navy button-down, Jenna in a simple white sundress, both smiling wide. Behind them, the gray stone steps of the historic courthouse downtown, the Tennessee state flag snapping in the breeze. They looked joyful, radiant, in love. My throat tightened. You look happy there. We were, Jenna said softly. We are. I stared at the photo until my eyes burned. Then I handed the phone back. The silence stretched again. The baking grease had hardened on the platter. The coffee in my mug had gone lukewarm. George Strait had given way to Patsy Cline on the radio, crying over lost love, the irony almost cruel. I stood up, walked to the window overlooking the backyard. The zinnias still stood bright against the fence. The red maple leaves rustled gentle. Everything outside looked the same. Inside, nothing did. I turned back to them. I need a minute, I said. Not angry, not yelling, just honest. Y'all finish eating if you want. I'm going to step outside. Ethan started to stand. Mom. Stay, I said gently. Eat the biscuits before they're stone cold. I slipped out the back door onto the screened porch. The air was cooler out there, fall creeping in. I sat on the old wicker swing, the chains creaking familiar under my weight, wrapped my cardigan here. Behind the glass I could see them, Ethan talking low to Jenna, her hand on his arm, both of them glancing toward the door every few seconds. They looked worried, guilty, young. I closed my eyes, let the swing rock slow. They'd gotten married yesterday. No invitation, no warning, no chance for me to cry happy tears, to hug them both, to tell Ethan how proud I was. And that smile of Jenna's, the one that never quite reached her eyes, kept replaying in my mind. Something wasn't right. I didn't know what yet, but mothers feel these things before they see them, and whatever they were hiding, it was bigger than a quick courthouse wedding. I opened my eyes, looked back through the window at my son and his new wife. They were still talking, heads close, voices low. I stood up. Time to go back inside. Time to start asking the real questions, because this wasn't over, not by a long shot. Looking back now, with the courthouse weddings still fresh and that plain gold band burning a hole in my memory, the signs had been piling up for months, like unpaid bills left on the kitchen counter. I just hadn't wanted to see them. Mothers are good at that, seeing the best in our children, excusing the cracks until the whole wall starts to lean. It started small, the way most troubles do. Ethan had always called me every Thursday evening around 7:30, rain or shine, since he moved out at 23. "Just checking in, Mom," he'd say, voice steady, the same tone he used when he was 10 and reporting his homework was done. But around March, 6 months before that Sunday brunch, the calls began to thin. First, it was a text instead. "Busy week, talk soon." Then 2 Thursdays in a row went silent. When he finally rang, the conversations felt clipped, like he was reading from a script. "Work's crazy. Jenna's got a big deadline. Everything's good. Promise." I asked once, gently, the way you do when you don't want to scare the answer away. "Everything okay between you two, honey?" He laughed, short, forced. "Yeah, Mom, just life. You know how it is." I let it drop. Shouldn't have. Then came the weekend trips. Ethan had never been much for spontaneous getaways, too practical, too tied to his engineering schedules. But suddenly he was heading to Atlanta for a work conference every other month. He'd text a photo of a hotel lobby or a conference badge, always cropped tight so you couldn't see much else. Jenna never posted anything. No Instagram stories of skyline views, no check-ins at trendy restaurants. I noticed because I watch her feed too closely. Mothers do that too. Her grid stayed quiet on those weekends. A coffee cup here, a design sketch there. Nothing to match his trips. One Sunday in early April, Jenna showed up alone for brunch. Ethan had texted the night before. "Migraine, staying in. Sorry, Mom." I believed him at first. Migraines ran in his daddy's side of the family. But when Jenna walked through my door, she looked tired. Not the tired of a late night, but the bone-deep kind. Dark circles under those green eyes, smile thinner than usual. We sat at the table anyway. I'd made extra biscuits, thinking Ethan might rally. She picked at her eggs, pushed the bacon around her plate like it had offended her. "How's he feeling?" I asked. "Better today," she said. "Just needed rest." I watched her hands, long fingers, always moving when she was nervous, twisting a napkin into knots. "You sure everything's all right, honey?" I pressed, soft as I could. "You both seem off lately." She looked up quick, then away. "We're fine, Maggie, really. Just stressed. Work, life, the usual." She changed the subject fast, asked about my zinnias, how the new variety was holding up against the aphids. I let her steer us there, because pushing too hard never works with Jenna. She's got that polite wall up when she wants it. But after she left, hugged quick, promised to bring Ethan next time, I couldn't shake the feeling. I went to my laptop in the den, the one with the sticky W key I keep meaning to replace. I opened Facebook, Jenna's profile first. Public posts were sparse, but I scrolled back through tagged photos from college. That's when I saw him again, Caleb Whitaker. Tall, blonde, easy smile. He'd been in half a dozen pictures from 5 years ago, arms around Jenna at parties, kisses on cheeks at graduations, New Year's Eve countdowns with champagne flutes raised. They looked young, in love, happy in that reckless way you are before life teaches you caution. I clicked his name. Profile private now, but the old tag stayed. Last post visible, a hiking shot in Colorado 2 years back. Caption, still chasing summits. No recent activity. Still, seeing his face next to hers after all this time made my stomach twist. I closed the tab, told myself it was nothing. Old boyfriends fade. Ethan was the present. But the next Thursday, call came late, almost 9. Ethan sounded off, voice flat. "Mom, sorry I missed last week." "No worries," I said. "Everything good?" Pause. Too long. "Yeah, Jenna and we're figuring some stuff out." "Stuff?" "Just relationship stuff. Nothing big." I waited. Silence stretched. Then he said, "I love her, Mom. That's all that matters." I told him I loved him too. Hung up. Sat in the dark den staring at the blue glow of the screensaver. That night I couldn't sleep.
I lay in bed listening to the ceiling fan click, thinking about the boy who used to crawl into my lap after nightmares, the man who now carried secrets he wouldn't share, the woman who smiled without her eyes joining in.
I got up around 2, made tea, sat at the kitchen table with Mama's blue willow cup warming my hands, looked at the empty chair where Ethan usually sat, thought about the gold band I hadn't seen yet, the courthouse step selfie I hadn't been invited to witness. The first red flag hadn't been the missed calls or the solo brunch or the old boyfriend photos. It had been the way Jenna's laugh had started sounding practiced, the way Ethan's "everything's good" began to sound like a prayer instead of truth. I didn't know the half of it then, but something in my mother's heart, that quiet, stubborn radar that never quite turns off, knew the storm was coming. And when it finally broke over Sunday brunch 6 months later, with a wedding I hadn't been told about and a secret I could already smell on the wind, I realized I'd been waiting for it all along. I just hadn't known how bad it would hurt. The gold band on Ethan's finger kept catching the light from the chandelier every time he reached for something, the salt shaker, his coffee mug, even when he just rested his hand on the tablecloth. Simple, plain, no fancy engraving, no tiny diamond chip like the ones you see in jewelry store windows. Just a thin circle of yellow gold that looked like it came straight off the courthouse clerk's display rack for $29.95. Courthouse cheap, impulse cheap, secret cheap. I couldn't stop staring at it. My boy, my only boy, had a wedding ring I hadn't watched being slipped on. No ceremony, no tears from me, no chance to hug him afterward and whisper, "I'm so proud of you, honey." Just 20 minutes in a government building downtown, a judge in a black robe, maybe a bored witness pulled from the hallway, and then it was done. Done before I even poured the orange juice that morning. "You didn't want me there?" The question slipped out softer than I meant, but it still cracked in the middle like thin ice. I hated how small my voice sounded. Ethan looked down at his plate. The biscuit he'd taken sat untouched now, butter hardening on top. "It wasn't about not wanting you, Mom. It was about keeping it ours, just us. No big production, no one else's expectations weighing on it." Jenna nodded, quick and supportive. "We didn't want you to feel obligated to plan anything, Maggie, or buy a dress, or worry about catering, or deal with relatives flying in. We wanted the moment to be pure, only about our commitment. No distractions." Pure. There was that word again, landing like a stone in my stomach. Pure didn't feel pure when it came wrapped in secrets. Pure didn't leave a mother sitting at her own dining table, staring at a ring she'd never seen placed. I reached across the table, slow, careful, and took Ethan's left hand in mine. His skin was warm. Mine felt cold. I turned his hand palm up first, then over, studying the band like it was evidence in a case I hadn't been allowed to investigate. The metal was smooth, unmarked, already a little scuffed from one day of wear. No tan line yet. Fresh. "It's nice," I said, because what else do you say when your heart's breaking in slow motion? Simple. Classic. Ethan swallowed. "Thanks." I let his hand go. It dropped back to the table with a soft thud. The ring clicked once against the china saucer. The silence stretched again, longer this time. Patsy Cline had faded out on the radio. Now it was just the hum of the refrigerator and the faint tick of that old clock. My coffee had gone stone cold. The bacon grease on the platter had congealed into little white pools. I looked at Jenna. She was watching me with that same careful expression, green eyes steady, mouth curved in polite concern. But the smile still didn't touch her eyes. It hovered there like a guest who knows they've overstayed but can't quite leave. "You both look happy in the photo," I said, nodding toward Ethan's phone, still lying face down on the table, the one on the courthouse steps. "We were," Ethan answered quick. "We are." Jenna added, softer, "It felt right, Maggie, in the moment. Just the two of us against the world, saying the words that mattered. No crowd, no pressure, just love." Love. Another word that should have warmed me, but instead felt hollow. I stood up, slow, knees creaking a little more than they used to, and walked to the sideboard where I kept the extra napkins. I didn't need napkins. I just needed to move, to breathe,
to stop staring at that damn ring like it had personally betrayed me. Behind me, Ethan spoke low. "Mom, say something. Yell if you want. I can take it." I turned. "I'm not going to yell, Ethan. You're 38 years old. You don't need your mama's permission to get married." I paused. "But you did need her blessing, and you didn't give me the chance to give it." Jenna's hand went to her mouth, quick, reflexive. "We thought, once it was done, you'd see it was the right thing, that you'd be relieved no big wedding drama happened." Relieved. The word hit harder than pure or happy. Relieved that my only child had married without me. Relieved that I hadn't been there to cry, to hug, to throw rice, to dance at a reception that never happened. I walked back to the table, sat down heavier than I meant to. The chair creaked under me.
I've spent my whole life dreaming of the day you'd stand up in front of family and friends and say those vows, I said quietly. Not because I wanted the spectacle, because I wanted to be there, to see my boy become a husband, to hold your hand when you were nervous, to tell you how much your daddy would have loved to see it. My voice thickened on the last part. Daddy had been gone 12 years, but the ache never quite left. Ethan's eyes went glassy. He blinked hard. "I'm sorry, Mom. I really am." Jenna reached for my hand this time. I let her take it, but I didn't squeeze back. "We can have a celebration," she said. "A reception, a vow renewal, whatever you want. We just needed to do the legal part first, for us." I looked at her, really looked. The woman I'd welcomed into my home 4 years ago, cooked for, prayed for, loved like the daughter I never had. The woman who now wore a secret wedding ring and a smile that felt like a shield. "Maybe," I said, "maybe we will." But inside, something had shifted. The room felt different, the air thicker. The blue willow china looked older, more fragile. I glanced at the ring one last time. It wasn't just a piece of jewelry. It was a door that had closed without me inside. And whatever lay behind that door, whatever they weren't saying, I knew one thing for certain. This wasn't the end of the story. It was barely the beginning. I picked up my cold coffee, took a sip anyway. Bitter, just like the truth I could already taste coming. They left around 11:30 that Sunday. Hugs at the door, Ethan's tight and lingering, Jenna's quick and careful. Promises to call soon, to come back next weekend, to talk more when things settle. I smiled through it all, waved from the porch until their SUV turned the corner on Maplewood Lane and disappeared. The second the taillights vanished, the mask dropped. My knees felt weak. I closed the front door, leaned against it, and let the tears come. Silent, hot, the kind that burn your throat and leave you hollow. I didn't cry long. Mothers don't get the luxury of long breakdowns when there's work to do. I walked straight to the den, flipped on the desk lamp, the old brass one with the green glass shade, and opened my laptop. The screen glowed blue in the dim room. I wasn't proud of what I was about to do, but pride had already taken a back seat to something sharper. Need to know. First search, Ethan Harlan marriage license, Davidson County, Tennessee. Nothing yet. Public records take time to post, sometimes days, sometimes weeks. The courthouse had probably stamped their certificate yesterday afternoon. It wouldn't be online until the clerk's office processed it. I bookmarked the county clerk's site anyway. Refresh later. Next, Jenna's maiden name, Jenna Marie Caldwell. I typed it into Google, added quotes for exact matches. Old articles from her college days popped up. Graphic Design Award at Vanderbilt, a group exhibition downtown. Then Facebook. Her profile was mostly locked now, but the public posts and tagged photos stayed visible. I scrolled back, carefully, methodically, like I was reading a book I didn't want to finish. There he was again, Caleb Whitaker. 5 years ago, maybe 6. A string of tagged photos from a New Year's Eve party, Jenna laughing in a sparkly dress, Caleb's arm around her waist, both holding champagne flutes. Another from a beach trip, sand, sunset, her head on his shoulder. A birthday dinner, cake with candles, him kissing her cheek while she blew them out. The captions were gone, probably deleted, but the smiles weren't. They looked young, in love, easy together. I clicked Caleb's name. Profile private, but the old tags linked back. Last visible post,
A hiking photo in the Rockies, time-stamped 2 years ago. Caption, chasing elevation and clarity. No recent activity, no new tags with Jenna. But the history was there, clear as day. I took screenshots, every one. Saved them in a folder labeled Taxes 2025, the last place Ethan would ever look if he ever borrowed my computer.
My heart beat too loud in the quiet house. The refrigerator hummed. Outside, a neighbor's dog barked once, sharp and lonely. I leaned back in the chair, closed my eyes for a second, thought about the gold band on Ethan's finger, the way he'd rubbed his neck when I asked why no invitation, the way Jenna's smile stayed polite but never warmed. Something wasn't adding up. I opened a new tab, searched Caleb Whitaker, Nashville. LinkedIn, graphic designer turned freelance consultant, same field as Jenna. Last job listed a small agency in Denver. Denver, not Nashville. Instagram, private. Facebook, same hiking posts, same old photos with friends. No Jenna in the recent ones. I went back to Jenna's feed, scrolled slower this time. A post from 4 months ago, black and white photo of 2 hands clasped on a table, hers and Ethan's. I recognized his watch. Caption, grateful for this man every single day. Likes from mutual friends. Comments, hearts, you two are goals, when's the ring coming? No ring emoji from Jenna in reply. Another post 3 months back, solo coffee shop selfie. Caption, sometimes you need a reset. Ethan not tagged, no geotag. 2 months ago, a story highlight still up, weekend vibes. Blurry photo of a mountain trail, someone's hiking boot in the frame. No face, no tag. But the boot looked men's size, not Ethan's. He wore a size 11 narrow, that looked wider. I screenshotted that too.
By now, my coffee from brunch was long cold on the side table. I stood up, paced the den. The carpet felt too soft under my slippers. Everything felt wrong. I sat again, typed one last search. Jenna Caldwell, Caleb Whitaker. Old forum posts from a design community, couples who collaborated on projects. A joint portfolio entry from 7 years ago, Caldwell and Whitaker Designs, last updated 6 years back. They'd been partners, creative and romantic. Then something ended. She met Ethan, or so the story went. I closed the laptop, sat in the dark for a long minute. The house was too quiet. No Ethan laughing in the kitchen, no Jenna's bright voice filling the rooms. Just me, the tick of the clock, and a folder full of screenshots I didn't want to have. I got up, walked to the kitchen, poured fresh coffee, strong, black, carried it to the porch swing out front. The chains creaked as I sat. The neighborhood was settling into afternoon. Kids on bikes, a lawnmower somewhere down the street, leaves drifting slow across the grass. I rocked gently, sipped, thought. They'd married fast, secretly, without me. Ethan looked guilty, Jenna looked guarded, and Caleb Whitaker's shadow kept appearing in the corners of every search. I didn't know the full story yet, but I knew one thing. This wasn't just about wanting a simple wedding. This was about something, or someone, being hidden. And I was going to find out what. Because a mother doesn't stop protecting her child just because he puts a ring on his finger. She starts digging deeper. I set the mug down on the porch rail, pulled my phone from my pocket, opened the Notes app, typed one line. Start with the calls Ethan missed. Ask around, quietly. Then I hit save. The swing creaked on, the sun dipped lower, and the quiet investigation had officially begun. 2 weeks after the brunch bombshell, the house felt too quiet on a Tuesday evening. Ethan had texted that morning. Working late tonight, big deadline. Jenna might stop by if that's okay. I replied with a simple, of course, honey, but my stomach nodded the second I hit send. I'd spent those 14 days refreshing the county clerk's website daily until the marriage certificate finally appeared. Public record, black and white, dated September 28th. Signed by a Judge Harlan, no relation, thank God. Seeing their names side by side in official print made it real in a way the gold band hadn't. I kept the porch light on, made a fresh pot of decaf, set out Mama's blue willow cups. When Jenna's car pulled into the driveway at 6:45, headlights cutting across the front lawn, I met her at the door with a smile that felt borrowed. She looked smaller somehow,
hair pulled back in a loose ponytail, no makeup, wearing an oversized Vanderbilt sweatshirt that might have been Ethan's once. She hugged me quick, but her arms didn't linger like they used to. "Come in, honey," I said. "Coffee's hot." We settled in the living room instead of the kitchen, couch facing the fireplace I hadn't lit since last winter. The room smelled faintly of cinnamon from the candlelight burned earlier, trying to make things feel normal. They weren't. Jenna sat on the edge of the cushion, hands folded in her lap like she was waiting for a job interview. I took the armchair across from her, close enough to read her face, far enough to keep some distance. She didn't waste time on small talk. "I need to tell you something, Maggie," she said, voice low, steady, but her fingers twisted the hem of the sweatshirt. I nodded once. "I'm listening." She took a breath, deep, like she was diving underwater. "Caleb, he's my ex. We dated for 6 years, college through the first couple years out of school. We were serious, lived together for 3 of them, broke up right before I met Ethan." I stayed quiet, let her keep going. The clock on the mantel ticked soft. "But we never really ended it," she continued. "Not cleanly. There were always loose threads, texts on birthdays, a call when one of us was drunk and lonely. I thought I'd moved on. I really did. Ethan was different, steady, kind, no drama. I fell for him hard. But then Caleb showed up again. My coffee cup felt heavy in my hands. I set it on the side table without drinking. "When?" I asked. 3 months ago. He moved back to Nashville for a freelance gig, texted me out of nowhere, said he'd changed, said he'd been thinking about us, said he was sorry for how things ended." She paused. "I blocked him the first time, but he kept finding ways. New number, email, even showed up at a coffee shop I go to." I felt the air leave the room slow. "Ethan found out," she said. "He saw a message pop up on my phone one night. We fought. Bad. I told him everything. The history, the lingering feelings, how confused I was. He didn't yell. He just went quiet. Then he said, 'Choose. Him or me.' I leaned forward. And I chose him. Ethan. I told Caleb it was over, for good this time. But Ethan, he was scared, said he didn't want to lose me to someone from my past. So he suggested the courthouse. Fast. No waiting, no second thoughts. We went the next week." The words hung between us like smoke. "You married my son to prove something," I said quietly, not a question. Jenna's eyes filled. "To prove I could commit, to shut the door on Caleb, to make it real before I could talk myself out of it." I stared at her, the woman I'd welcomed as family, the one who'd laughed at my corny jokes, helped me plant zinnias last spring, called me mom once by accident and blushed when I smiled. "And you thought hiding it from me, from his mother, was part of making it real?" She looked down. Tears dropped on her clasped hands. "I thought it would hurt less if it was already done, if you couldn't talk us out of it, if there was no big build-up to disappoint." Disappoint. The words stung worse than anything else she'd said. I stood up, walked to the window, looked out at the dark street, porch lights glowing on lawns, a car passing slow. Normal life moving on, while mine cracked wider. "You didn't trust me," I said, back still to her. "You thought I'd stand in your way, or make it complicated. Or what? Judge you?" Jenna's voice came small. "I was ashamed of the mess with Caleb, of not being sure. I didn't want you to see me as weak or unworthy of him." I turned. "Unworthy? Honey, I've never once thought that. Not when you forgot his birthday last year and cried about it. Not when you lost that big client and doubted yourself. Not ever." She wiped her eyes with her sleeve. "I know. I just panicked." I walked back, sat beside her this time, close enough that her knees almost touched. "Ethan knows all this?" I asked. She nodded. "Everything. He's been patient, more than I deserve. But the text from Caleb, they haven't stopped. Ethan's seen them, He pretends he hasn't, but he has. My heart squeezed. And you? I delete them, block the numbers. But he keeps coming back. Different accounts, different excuses. I reached for her hand. This time she let me hold it. Cold fingers, trembling. You married my boy to buy time, I said gently. Not because you were ready, because you were running.
She didn't deny it, just cried harder, silent, shaking sobs that made her shoulders hitch. I pulled her into a hug. She resisted her half a second, then collapsed against me like a child. I held her the way I'd held Ethan through fevers and broken hearts. We'll figure this out, I whispered into her hair. But no more secrets. Not from me, not from him. She nodded against my shoulder. But even as I rocked her, the quiet voice in my head, the one that never quite shuts up, whispered back, this isn't over. Caleb's still out there, and time bought with a courthouse ring runs out fast. That Tuesday night after Jenna left my house in tears, the house felt heavier than it had in years. The blue willow cup sat washed and drying on the rack. The cinnamon candle had burned low, and the porch light still glowed like it was waiting for someone who wasn't coming back. I didn't sleep. I sat in the den with the lamp on low, staring at the folder of screenshots on my laptop until my eyes burned. Caleb Whitaker's face kept staring back, smiling, carefree, the ghost who refused to stay buried. Around 11:30, my phone lit up on the coffee table. Ethan's name. No text first, just a call. I answered on the second ring. Mom? His voice sounded small, tired, like the boy who used to call from college when the world felt too big. Hey, honey, you okay? A long pause, breathing on the line, shaky, uneven. Jenna told you, he said finally. Not a question. Yes. Another pause. I could picture him, sitting on the edge of their bed, elbows on knees, rubbing the back of his neck the way he always did when the weight got too heavy. I should have told you myself, he said. I'm sorry. I didn't know how. I leaned back in the armchair. The lamp cast long shadows across the carpet. Start from the beginning, Ethan. No more half-truths. He exhaled, long, ragged. Okay. He told me everything Jenna had left out, or softened. Caleb had shown up 3 months earlier. Not just a text. He'd walked into the coffee shop where Jenna worked freelance most mornings, sat at her table like no time had passed, said he'd been sober for a year, said he'd gone to therapy, said he'd never stopped loving her, said he wanted another chance. Jenna cried for days after that first encounter, locked herself in the bathroom, wouldn't eat. Ethan found her there one night, curled on the tile, phone in hand, rereading old messages from Caleb. She told me everything, Ethan continued. The 6 years, the plans they'd made, how they almost got engaged once, how she walked away because he was drinking too much, because he couldn't commit. But she never forgot him, said part of her always wondered, what if? My heart squeezed so hard I pressed a hand to my chest. I didn't yell, he said. I just asked her what she wanted. She said she loved me, said she wanted us. But she was scared. Scared she'd always wonder. Scared she'd hurt me worse later. I closed my eyes. So you suggested the courthouse? Yeah. His voice cracked. I thought, if we made it legal, if we said the vows, it would close the door, make it real, make him disappear. I was scared too, Mom. Scared if we waited, planned a big wedding, she'd change her mind. Or he'd keep showing up. I wanted to lock it down fast. Lock it down. The words echoed ugly in the quiet room. And it worked? I asked softly. Silence again, longer this time. No, he whispered. He's still texting. Different numbers, emails, even sent flowers to her studio last week. Anonymous, but we both knew. She deletes them, blocks them, but they keep coming. I opened my eyes. The lamp flickered once, old bulb probably. You've seen the messages? Yeah. She shows me most of them now, but I know there are some she doesn't. I pretend I don't notice, because if I push, I'm afraid she'll run. My throat tightened. Ethan, honey, you can't marry someone to keep them from leaving. That's not love. That's a cage. I know. His voice broke fully now, raw, ugly sobs muffled against his hand. I know, Mom, but I love her. I thought the ring would fix it, thought being husband and wife would make her choose me for good. Instead, I just feel like I'm begging every day. I stood up, paced to the window. The street was dark, only porch lights and the occasional car passing slow. You deserve better than a safety marriage, I said. You deserve someone who chooses you without a judge forcing the issue, without an ex lurking in the shadows. He cried harder, my boy, my grown man, breaking on the other end of the line. I don't know what to do, he choked out. I don't want to lose her, but I can't keep doing this. I leaned my forehead against the cool glass. Then stop pretending it's okay. Talk to her. Really talk. No more courthouse band-aids. If she's still torn, you let her go. It'll hurt like hell, but staying in limbo will hurt worse. He sniffled. I'm scared, Mom. I know, but you're not alone. You've got me, always. We stayed quiet for a long minute, only his breathing and mine, connected across the miles of night. Will you come over tomorrow? He asked finally. After work? I think we need to face this together. All three of us. I swallowed hard. I'll be there. 6 o'clock. I'll bring supper. Fried chicken. Your favorite. Thanks, Mom. A small, broken laugh. I love you. Love you more, baby boy. He hung up. I stood there in the dark den, phone still warm in my hand. The lamp flickered again, then steadied. I walked to the kitchen, pulled out the big cast iron skillet, started breading chicken even though it was past midnight, because sometimes the only way to hold things together is to keep your hands busy. Tomorrow, we'd face it. Tomorrow, the truth would come out, whatever was left of it. And whatever happened after that, one thing was certain. My son was drowning in a marriage built on fear, and I wasn't about to let him sink alone. The next evening, I drove to their apartment in the Green Hills area, a tidy 2-bedroom complex with brick facades and maple trees turning right along the sidewalks. Fried chicken sat warm in the foil pan on the passenger seat, extra crispy, Ethan's favorite, with mashed potatoes and gravy I'd made from scratch that afternoon. Comfort food, peace offering. Last meal before the storm, maybe. I parked in the visitor spot, grabbed the pan, and walked up the stairs to number 214. My knock was soft. 3 quick taps, the same rhythm I used when Ethan was little, and I check if he was asleep. Jenna opened the door. She looked surprised, then relieved, then nervous, all in the space of 2 seconds. Maggie, you're early. Ethan's not home yet. Another half hour, maybe. That's fine, I said, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. I brought supper. We can wait. The apartment smelled like coffee and her vanilla candle, the same one she always lit when she was anxious. The living room was neat. Throw pillows fluffed, magazines stacked, no sign of chaos. But the air felt thick, heavy, like the moment before thunder cracks. I set the pan on the kitchen counter. Jenna hovered near the island, arms crossed loose like she was holding herself together. You okay, honey? I asked. She nodded too quick. Yeah, just tired. I looked at her, really looked. Dark circles deeper now, ponytail limp, sweatshirt sleeves pulled over her hands. The woman who'd once danced around my kitchen singing off-key to country radio looked like she was carrying bricks. I took a breath. Ethan asked me to come, said we needed to talk, all 3 of us. Jenna's eyes flicked to the hallway. He told you about the call last night? Everything. She swallowed, looked down at her bare feet. I'm glad. No more secrets. But her voice trembled on the last word. I stepped closer. Jenna? Is there anything else? Anything you haven't told him or me? She met my eyes then, held them. For a long second, I thought she'd lie. Then she shook her head, slow, defeated. There's a box, she whispered, under the bed, in our room. My heart thudded once, hard. Show me.
She hesitated, then turned and walked down the short hallway. I followed. The bedroom door was half open. Soft afternoon light slanted through the blinds, striping the beige carpet. Their bed was made, hospital corners, the way Ethan liked it, a quilt I'd given them for Christmas 2 years ago. Jenna knelt, reached under the frame, pulled out a plain white shoebox, no lid, just the bottom half. She set it on the comforter like it might bite.
I sat on the edge of the bed. She stayed kneeling, like confession. I lifted the first item, a stack of letters, handwritten, recent dates, last 3 months, Caleb's name on the envelopes. I opened the top one. Jenna, I can't stop thinking about us, the way we used to laugh until we couldn't breathe. I've changed. I'm sober. I'm stable. Come to Denver. Start over. I'll wait as long as it takes. The words blurred. I set it down. Next, more letters. Passionate, begging, promising. One with a pressed flower taped inside. Dried rose, red as blood. Then photos. Old Polaroids of them young. Beach kisses, city rooftops, her head on his chest. Newer ones, too. A candid of Jenna at a cafe, taken from across the street, time-stamped last month. My hands shook. At the bottom, a plane ticket, one way, Denver, her name, next month, no return. I looked at her. She hadn't moved. Tears streamed silent down her face. You were going to leave, I said, not a question. I thought about it, she choked. I bought the ticket 2 weeks ago, after a bad fight with Ethan. I was going to go, clear my head, see if Caleb was real or just a ghost. But you didn't go. No, she wiped her cheeks. I couldn't. Every time I looked at the ticket, I saw Ethan's face, the way he looked at me when we said vows at the courthouse, like I was his whole world. I tore it up yesterday, threw it away. I held up the ticket, still whole. This says otherwise. She stared at it like she'd never seen it. I must have printed another, or kept the confirmation. I don't know. I'm so messed up, Maggie. I set the box down, stood, walked to the window, looked out at the parking lot. Not because you were sure, because you were scared to choose. She nodded, small, miserable. I love him, I do. But Caleb, he's like a song stuck in my head. I can't turn it off. I turned back. Then turn it off, or let my boy go. She sobbed then, hard, ugly, the kind that shakes your whole body. I didn't comfort her right away. I let her feel it, let the weight settle. The front door clicked open. Ethan's voice. Mom? Jenna? I'm home. Footsteps down the hall. He stopped in the doorway, saw the shoebox on the bed, saw my face, saw Jenna on the floor crying. His eyes went to the letters, the photos, the ticket. He didn't speak, just walked in, picked up the top letter, read it, face drained of color. Then he looked at her. You kept these, he said, voice flat, broken. I was going to tell you, she whispered. I swear, I tore up the first ticket. I blocked him again last night. Ethan dropped the letter. It fluttered to the carpet.
I believed you, he said, when you said you chose me. I believed the ring meant something. It did, she cried. It does. He shook his head, slow. No, it didn't. He looked at me then, my boy, eyes red, pleading. Mom, what do I do? I walked to him, put my arms around him. He didn't hug back at first. Then he did, tight, desperate, like he was 5 again and the world had just broken. We go home, I said softly. We talk, we figure it out, together. Jenna stayed on the floor, crying. Ethan pulled away, looked at her one last time. I can't do this anymore, he said. Then he walked out. I picked up the box, followed my son. The apartment door clicked shut behind us. The storm had finally broken, and nothing would ever be the same. We left their apartment like ghosts, slipping out the back door. Ethan walked ahead, shoulders hunched, steps mechanical, carrying nothing but the weight of what he'd just seen. I followed with the shoebox tucked under my arm, like evidence from a crime scene I never wanted to investigate. The fried chicken sat forgotten on the kitchen counter. Neither of us mentioned it. The drive back to my house on Maplewood Lane was silent, except for the hum of the engine and the occasional hitch in Ethan's breathing. He stared out the passenger window the whole way, gold band still glinting on his finger like a bad joke that wouldn't end. Inside my house, the porch light welcomed us like nothing had changed, but everything had. I set the box on the coffee table in the living room, same room where we'd opened Christmas presents, where Ethan had proposed to Jenna on one knee 2 years ago, with a ring I'd helped him pick. Now that same table held letters from another man, photos of a life Jenna hadn't fully left behind, and a plane ticket she'd never torn up. Ethan sank onto the couch. I sat beside him, waited. He didn't speak at first, just stared at the box like it might catch fire if he looked away. "She kept them," he said finally, voice flat, hollow. All this time, while I was planning our future, she was keeping his letters under our bed. I reached for his hand, the one with the ring. He didn't pull away, but he didn't hold on either. "We need to talk to her," I said gently, face to face. No more hiding behind texts or deleted messages. He nodded once, slow, defeated. "Call her. Tell her to come over. Tonight." I did. Texted simple. "Ethan wants to talk. Come to the house. Now." She replied in under a minute. "On my way." 20 minutes later, the doorbell rang. Soft, hesitant, like she hoped we wouldn't answer. I opened the door. Jenna stood on the porch, eyes red-rimmed, hair loose now, still in Ethan's old sweatshirt. She looked smaller than I'd ever seen her. "Come in," I said. No hug, no warmth, just the truth waiting inside.
We sat in the living room, Ethan on one end of the couch, Jenna on the armchair across from him, me in the middle, like a referee who already knew the score. The shoebox sat open on the coffee table between us, letters fanned out, photos visible, ticket on top like an accusation. Ethan spoke first, voice low, steady, but the tremor underneath gave him away. "You kept everything," he said. "Letters, pictures, the ticket. You married me and kept his promises under our bed." Jenna's hands twisted in her lap. I was going to throw them away, I swear. After we got married, I thought the ring would make it stop, make me stop thinking about him. Ethan laughed, short, bitter. "The ring didn't make him stop texting. It didn't make you stop reading." She flinched. Tears welled again. I deleted most of them, blocked him. But every time a new number popped up, I read, just once, to see if he was still the same, if he'd really changed. "And?" Ethan asked, voice cracking now. "Had he?" She looked down. "I don't know. I told myself he hadn't, but part of me wanted to believe he had. I stayed quiet, let them talk. This wasn't my fight to lead, just to witness." Ethan leaned forward, elbows on knees. "I knew you were still talking to him. I saw the notifications, the way you'd flip your phone over when I walked in the room. I pretended I didn't notice because I was scared if I said anything, you'd leave. So I bought the ring, fast. Thought being husband and wife would make you choose me for good." Jenna sobbed, quiet, shaking. "I did choose you. I set the vows. I meant them. Then why keep the box?" he asked. "Why keep the ticket?" "Because I was weak," she whispered. "Because I was scared I'd made the wrong choice. Because every time Caleb texted, it felt like proof I could still be wanted. Even after I hurt him. Even after I hurt you." Ethan stood up, paced to the fireplace. Back turned, shoulders rigid. "I believed you," he said. "When you cried in my arms and said you loved me. When we stood in front of that judge and promised forever.
I believed it was real. It was real. To me, it still is. He turned, eyes red, jaw tight. Then why does it feel like I am the consolation prize?
Jenna stood too, stepped toward him. You're not. You're everything. Caleb he's the past, a mistake I can't shake. But you're my present, my future. I want to fight for us. Ethan looked at her, long, searching, then at me. Mom, what do I do? I stood, walked between them, looked at my son, my brave, broken boy. You deserve a love that doesn't come with a backup plan, I said softly. A love that doesn't need a courthouse rush or hidden letters to feel safe. If she's still torn, if even one part of her heart is still open to him, then you let her go. It'll hurt like hell. But staying in a marriage built on doubt will hurt worse, every single day. Ethan's face crumpled. He nodded, once, slow. Jenna reached for him. Ethan, please. He stepped back, gentle, but firm. I can't, he said. Not like this. Not when every time your phone buzzes, I'll wonder if it's him. Not when I know there's a box somewhere with his words still in it. She sobbed harder, sank back into the chair. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Ethan looked at me again. I want an annulment. Clean, quick, before we drag this out any longer. I nodded, put my arm around his waist. He leaned into me, just a little, like when he was small and the world felt too big. Jenna stood, wiped her face. I'll pack a bag, stay with a friend tonight. We can talk lawyers tomorrow. Ethan didn't answer, just watched her walk to the bedroom. When the door clicked shut, he turned to me, voice barely above a whisper. I thought marriage would fix us, Mom. I was wrong. I pulled him into a hug, tight, fierce. You're not wrong to want love, honey. You're just learning it can't be forced. It has to be chosen, every day. He cried then, quiet, shuddering sobs against my shoulder. I held him. The house settled around us, clock ticking, porch light humming. Outside, Jenna's car started. Taillights disappeared down the street. Inside, my son broke, and I held the pieces. Because that's what mothers do. We stand in the wreckage, and we say, we'll rebuild. One honest day at a time. The annulment papers arrived in the mail 3 weeks later. Clean, final, no contested assets, no ugly court fights. Ethan signed them at my kitchen table one rainy Tuesday morning while I brewed fresh coffee. His hand shook only once on the last page. When he set the pen down, he looked up at me. Not broken anymore, just tired, relieved, like a man who'd finally let go of a rope that was burning his palms. Jenna moved out the day after the confrontation, packed 2 suitcases and her laptop, left the apartment keys on the counter with a short note. I'm sorry. I hope you find the love you deserve. I'm going to Denver to figure out who I am without the ghosts. No drama, no last minute please, just gone. Ethan didn't chase her, didn't call, didn't text. He came straight home to Maplewood Lane that night, duffel bag slung over his shoulder, eyes red but dry. I made up the guest room, the one with the quilt from his childhood, and didn't ask questions. Some wounds need silence before words. He stayed a month, not because he had nowhere else to go. He had his own place, friends, a job that paid the bills, but because neither of us wanted to be alone with the echo of what happened. We fell into a rhythm that felt like old times, only quieter. Mornings, coffee on the porch swing, watching the red maple drop leaves like slow confetti. Afternoons, him working from my den on his laptop while I gardened or baked. Evenings, supper at the table, fried chicken one night, pot roast the next, then old movies on the couch. We watched The Shawshank Redemption twice. He laughed at the same lines he'd laughed at when he was 16. I pretended not to notice when he wiped his eyes during the ending. One night, about 2 weeks in, he broke. We were sitting on the porch after dark, crickets loud, porch light humming, when he set his bourbon glass down hard enough to slosh. I keep replaying it, he said. the courthouse, the way she looked at me when we said I do. I thought it was real. I thought I'd won her, but I was just delaying the inevitable. I reached over, took his hand. His fingers were cold. You loved her, I said simply. That's not failure. That's being human. He looked at me, eyes glassy in the yellow light. I feel stupid, Mom, like everyone could see it except me. Nobody saw it, I told him. Not even her, not fully. Love makes fools of us all sometimes. The trick is not staying a fool forever. He cried then, quiet, shoulders shaking. I pulled him close, like he was small again, held him until the sobs eased. When he pulled back, he looked lighter, not healed, but breathing easier. After that, he started opening up more, told me about the little things he'd ignored, the way she'd smile at her phone sometimes, the late-night work calls that weren't work. Told me how he'd bought the ring in a panic one afternoon after seeing another text notification flash across her screen. Told me he'd cried in the jewelry store bathroom before walking out with the plain gold band. I thought if I made it official, he whispered, she'd have to stay. I squeezed his hand. Love isn't a contract you sign to trap someone. It's a choice you make every day, and she couldn't make it. That's on her, not you. He nodded slow. I know, but it still hurts. It will, I said, for a while, then less. Then one day you'll wake up and realize the hurt's just a scar, not the whole story. He stayed another 2 weeks after that, started running in the mornings, early, before the neighborhood woke, came back sweaty, breathing hard, but with color in his cheeks again. Started dating, slowly. A woman from his office first, coffee, no pressure. Then a teacher he met at a friend's barbecue. He showed me texts sometimes, funny ones, sweet ones, asked my advice like he was 16 again. One Sunday, exactly 2 months after the brunch where everything shattered, we sat at the dining room table for brunch. Biscuits fresh, bacon crispy, blue willow china gleaming. He reached for the jam, and I noticed. The gold band was gone, skin slightly paler where it had been. He saw me looking, smiled, small, real. Pawned it last week, he said. Bought a new set of golf clubs instead. Figured I needed something that was just mine. I laughed, soft, surprised. Good trade. He poured coffee for both of us. I'm okay, Mom, really. It hurts less every day. And I'm grateful for you, for not letting me drown in it. I reached across the table, squeezed his hand. You never would have drowned. You're too stubborn for that. He grinned, the same grin he'd had as a boy when he'd caught his first fish. Runs in the family. We ate in comfortable quiet after that. The sun slanted through the lace curtains. The red maple outside was almost bare now, winter coming. But spring would follow. It always does. Ethan moved back to his apartment the next week, cleaned it top to bottom, changed the locks, started fresh. Last I heard from a mutual friend, he was seeing the teacher regularly, taking it slow, being honest, no secrets. He still calls every Thursday, still comes for Sunday brunch when he can, still hugs me tight at the door, whispers, "Love you, Mom." And every time he leaves, I stand on the porch and watch his taillights disappear down Maplewood Lane. I don't cry anymore. Instead, I smile. Because sometimes the worst secret isn't the one kept from you. It's the one your child keeps from himself, thinking he can fix a broken heart with a ring and a promise. The bravest thing a mother can do is stand in the wreckage, hold her boy while he breaks, and say the words he needs most. I'm still here. We'll rebuild. Together. One honest, hard-won day at a time. And when the hurt finally fades, as it always does, he'll walk into a future brighter than the one he almost trapped himself in. I know. Because I raised him, and he's stronger than he thinks.